Thank you, Bob. I'll echo, you've been a great partner to work with. And up here you'll see House and Senate, Democrat, Republican, Gulf Coast, Northeast Coast. And I tell folks that flooding is not a Republican issue. It is not a Democratic issue. If you flooded, it is an American issue. And I'll also add that if you want a program which is sustainable and accountable, that is an American issue. And we think we achieved that with this legislation. Now, I will say, within the last 2 years, there has been 10 short-term extensions to the NFIP. You could not come up with a better way to create uncertainty in certain real estate markets. You could not come up with a better way to dampen down homeowner prices and therefore the amount of income a community might receive from its property taxes. So I'm glad that Congress is making real progress for long-term reauthorization with real reforms to ensure affordability for homeowners. It protects taxpayers and improves the solvency of the program. It is a collective effort. Last Congress, it was Cassidy, Gillibrand, and Menendez-Kennedy, and now it is all of us together, coming up with a program which, again, as I mentioned earlier, is from 2 different regions, 2 different parties, and as you can see from the dais, 2 different chambers. Specifically, the legislation ensures that implementation of FEMA's Risk Rating 2.0 accurately reflects a property's unique flood risk while not compromising affordability. Now, just for the record, Risk 2.0 will no longer use flood maps and zones to determine a premium rate, but a series of models and statistical assumptions. It should give us a better rate, but it could lead, as Senator Menendez says, to an annual increase in premiums of up to 18%, compounded. I can tell you what happens. What happens when your premium goes up 18% per year? Quickly your premium becomes unaffordable. And somebody who's early on into a mortgage is just as likely to walk into the banker's office and drop keys upon the table saying, I can no longer afford this home, as opposed to stay in that home, staying with their insurance and paying premiums. To echo what Senator Menendez says, these reforms, by capping premium increases, make the program more sustainable. And by the way, we reduced that statutory cap to 9.0, but this is still above the 7.1% average increase that FEMA has previously implemented. Our cap is still greater than what they've been doing for the last several years. Secondly, we have real dollars for mitigation. It puts, as Senator Menendez says, a temporary freeze on the NFIP debt, freeing up to $400 million a year for mitigation. What does that mean? Ty, do we have other copies of this picture? Here is, as one of my South Louisiana, Hurricane Barry just hit my state. That wall, as the parish president says, is a big, beautiful wall. On the other side of that big, beautiful wall is 9 feet of water. On this side, the worst it ever got was 1 foot of water. And during Hurricane Rita, where 10 to 11,000 homes in this parish flooded, in Hurricane Barry, with a 9-foot surge, only 10 homes flooded. And those flooded behind the portion of the levee system which has not yet been completed. Walls work. In this case, mitigation works. And so by putting $400 million per year into the mitigation project, if you will, a stitch in time saves 9. Or to put it more precisely, there's a Wharton study that says that for every $1 spent on mitigation, there's $6 saved in payouts after flooding. This wall works. Other mitigation works. So we put $400 million a year, which is far more than has ever been put before. Thirdly, the bill ensures that repetitive loss properties have a legitimate opportunity to mitigate prior to flood insurance premium increases. According to FEMA, about 1% of policies account for 25% of flood claims. We can address these in numerous ways, buy them out, elevate them, move them. But this legislation builds upon the 6% in disaster relief fund dollars set aside for the BRIC program. That is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program as established by the Disaster Recovery and Reform Act. And it allocates an additional 10% towards property-specific mitigation for repetitive loss properties. Let me conclude by saying the NFIP has 5 million flood insurance policies providing $1.2 trillion in coverage with approximately 23,000 communities with 56 jurisdictions and states participating. The NFIP is important to communities across the country. It is important that we address these priorities as part of the Senate effort to reauthorize the NFIP. And now I turn to my Louisiana colleague, Senator John Kennedy.
Thanks, Bill. As you undoubtedly have surmised by now, this is a bit of an overstatement. But this bill is basically a coupling of Bob and I's bill with Bill's and Kirsten's bill. And I think we took the best parts of both. I'm biased, of course, but I think this bill strikes a fair balance between financial integrity of the National Flood Insurance Program and affordability for policyholders. It doesn't do any good to offer flood insurance to people if they can't afford it. And that's certainly not going to make the program stable if you don't have any policyholders. Duh. Here's my message today to the United States Congress, more to the Senate than to the House, because the House has already acted on not on this bill, but at least on the subject here. So my message to Congress today, and to me included, I'm obviously a member of Congress, is do something. Please get up off your ice cold lazy butt and do something. We've been through 10 extensions, not 5, not 7, not 8, 10. Now, Senator Crapo is one of my best friends. I love him. He does an extraordinary job as head of the Banking Committee. But I have begged Mike, and I'm going to continue to beg him, put a bill in front of the committee. Now, I'd like him to put this bill in front of the committee, but put any bill in front of the committee, for God's sakes, and let us be senators, and let us offer amendments, and you might be surprised what we can do together. I'd like to start with this bill. I mean, the impossible is often the untried. And then let's bring this bill before the United States Senate. And let's offer amendments, and let's debate it, and let's see what we can do. Let senators be senators. I think our colleagues in the House have done a much better job of taking action. This is a perfect example. Perception in politics is sometimes more important than reality. And this subject, at least as far as the Senate is concerned, flood insurance program is a good example of why so many Americans think that at least members of the Senate were born tired and raised lazy. Let me say it again. We need to do something. And I get the part about the Senate being created, you know, the saucer and the cooling and all of that stuff. And there is an advantage sometimes of being a crock pot. But enough is enough. We need a microwave here. And that's my message today. Let's get something passed.